Happy Friday night, America. Contra-Dictions episode 25 coming to you live and direct. Got my boys with us tonight, and they are together. Uh-oh, double trouble. What do you guys say? Kenny and Glenn, what's up, boys?
What's going on today? We are here. I got my man Kenny hanging out with me at Casa de Crowell. Yeah, so it says King B, but it's really King G. Right? We're at King G's crib.
So tonight's topics, we're going to go into Biden's running mates. There's a little bit, like maybe 4 to 6 different candidates that we can discuss. And if we get enough time, we're going to, circle back around kids going back to school and the return of sports. All right, so why don't we lead off? What are our top 5 prospects, if there are 5 prospects for the running mates? Who you guys got for us?
Well, you're going to have to be real clear on who you want to talk first. We'll be doing a whole bunch of the same, but I guess I'll read off the ones I got, and I think we might probably have a lot of the same ones. I think some of the top tier ones I would say is Senator Kamala Harris, Susan Rice. She was a senior advisor. You got Karen Bass, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. You have Tammy Duckworth out of Illinois. She's a senator. Liz Warren, obviously. And then Val Demings. And then Keisha Lance Bottoms is the mayor of Atlanta. So that's what I got.
Yeah, that was more than 5. Yeah, that's pretty much me too. I've got Kamala Harris or Kamala Harris. I've heard her pronounced all sorts of different ways. In my opinion, I think she's the front runner. I would probably say that she's the front runner. It's actually kind of weird because she had actually dropped out of the race about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then she just re-announced her re-entrance into the race about 3 days ago. So, and with that being said, I would say she's probably the front runner when you do look at the credentials. I have Tammy Duckworth also. I mean, there's a lot of candidates, guys. This is the thing, the Democratic Party really wants. They're pushing for a Black female vice president, which is kind of crazy. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but that's really what they're pushing for. So, it's. I don't know. Some people think it's discriminatory. Some people think it's, there's all sorts of stuff going on.
They're pandering to the Black vote, kind of, right?
Well, here's the thing I find interesting because both sides pander, but the interesting thing is
unless you're Bernie Sanders.
That's probably true. So, but the thing that I find interesting is the Democrat Party as a whole typically likes to talk about race more than the right does. So the argument can be made it's because they're racist on the right, or it can be made that we just don't want to. We just ready to move forward and have kind of the Morgan Freeman mindset when it comes to, I'm going to treat you like an American, you're going to treat me like an American. And so what happens is a lot of times on the Democrat Party, that's the downside to them picking a Black candidate because everyone's going to know that it was Hillary Clinton getting hot sauce. Whereas if a Republican puts out a Black guy, they can't really say they're pandering. They don't have a base to pander to there. So it's just a little bit different. And I think that it's a little bit disappointing because I think some of these people are very well conditioned. I think they're actually not terrible candidates. I actually think a lot of them are better candidates than Joe Biden. And if Joe Biden's camp didn't basically buy the election from Bernie Sanders, when you remember he got smoked in the first one, and then everybody dropped out and dumped all their money into him because they were told, we'll get you cabinet positions and all that kind of stuff. So
how about you guys try and convince me of why is Kamala Harris the front runner?
Well, I'll take that one. I mean, I think she's the obvious front runner. I mean, just the fact that she ran for president herself, kind of seems like the logical choice. I think it also acknowledges the big role that Blacks play in the Democratic Party. It kind of like symbolically says that he's in connection or down, so to speak, with the with everything that's happening today in the Black Lives Matter movement and all that. There's some negatives to Kamala Harris, but a Kamala Harris pick would probably realistically be a reaction to it would be like a pick to reaction of the protest.
So is she going to get Biden more votes, you think, just because she's a female black vice president?
Well, I think first of all, the black vote, right? That leans very heavily Democrat, even though Trump's up 4% on that, just let everybody know. Which is big when you're only at 8. So, but here's the thing about Kamala that's it's going to be some problems is that Kamala she was a state's attorney. So
she's a prosecutor.
State's prosecutor. Or the district. Which one's the prosecutor?
Yeah.
She's a prosecutor, right? For the state. That's
what she's a
state's attorney. Right? Yeah, I was right. Prosecutor. Yeah. So she has been putting people in jail, and she even was laughing about the fact that she smoked weed, and then saying, hey, these are the same people that, now all of a sudden you want to get their votes. So they would have to come up with a very interesting plan as to how to spin it so that she can bridge that connect between the police and the politics on it, because she was very pro staunch police. I mean, she was a hardcore prosecutor. She wasn't a very, so she's going to have some problems in that area.
Yeah, that's actually why I thought she had dropped out of the runnings in the first place, was because her tenure as a prosecutor is she wasn't lenient at all. She put away a lot of people. I feel like blacks or even progressives could definitely say, hey, we didn't ask for this candidate. She doesn't really address our concerns. She's not speaking to our needs. So I could definitely see that happening. So I'm glad that you brought that up, Kitty. But yeah, she was a prosecutor right now. And I think in this climate, the Democratic Party really doesn't want they really don't want anybody that was in law enforcement or that was a state attorney, a district attorney, anything like that. So that would be the one main issue. And it's a big issue. But there aren't many negatives, to be honest with you. She's an experienced campaigner. She's a great speaker. Historically, she'd be the first black woman on a national ticket. So there's a lot of talking points there.
And she's banned. Now, here's the problem, though. She's a great speaker, okay? And she's very good at, gotcha moments. But she ran a terrible campaign because she really had the opportunity to be the lead dog.
I thought I heard or remembered something happening that could have drastically ruined her chances at VP. I'm trying to think of what
you're talking about. So she kind of slept her way to the top a little bit. I don't know how to say it kinder than that, but
we're not politically correct around here. It is what it is.
She was paid for a political guy, and then she basically slept with him, and then he gave her this position and ruined his family and stuff like that. And she wasn't very remorseful about it. Now, again, I'm not trying to get into judging each person on nothing. Everybody, whatever. But that was the background noise that I had heard from the right. Again, I don't want to get into a bunch of people's personal lives that way. But that was
when she was running for the actual candidate, when they were all candidates at the time and trying to get the presidential vote.
And she actually, here's my point on that, Fred. She had the best moments of any candidate, and probably had 3 in the top 4 or 5 moments of the whole thing. So the fact that she literally dropped out before New Hampshire, or before the first one, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember. It's New Hampshire and what was it? Iowa. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. And she dropped out, and I was really shocked by that. And she made the claim that it was about money, but when you have such good performances on the debate stage, you should be able to fundraise. So I don't know if she has a fundraising issue, but she's got some problems campaigning for sure.
So one of the key things that I think hampered her is when she gave the story, a personal story about her when she was a little girl in California being bused to schools, and reminded everybody that the main culprit in the segregation was Joe Biden. So, that.
And that's what I think. I think that would be interesting, though, because I do think it's important as a president who is generally a pretty prideful person to think he can run the free world, to show some humility and maybe be able to bridge that gap. Because they've talked about them having issues, but at the end of the day, that's politics. And Kamala Harris said that, and people kind of beat her up for it. But I think she's right. Dude, that's the game. You're going to go at each other. If you remember, Donald Trump essentially took Ben Carson's a lot of his people, and then Ben Carson's like, I'm out of here, and then he went and supported him immediately. So, that's part of the game. I think people respect, I want on my basketball team or my football team the guy that I compete with that plays the toughest. So I don't have any problems with that.
All right, so let's go on to Susan Rice, the D.C. What is she, mayor?
No, she's actually she was a senior advisor.
Oh, okay.
So she's never actually.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
She's always been in D.C. because her family's a very powerful family in D.C. But she's never actually been in politics. She's not really a politician as much as she's like the smart woman in the room.
So why is it that she's like maybe a candidate? What has she done to like put her name into the pot, so to speak?
Well, she's just really, like kind of like what Kenny just said. She's been in DC. Her family is from DC. She's an insider. So, I think it's a nice contrast where in 2016, if you guys remember, Trump was constantly pounding the I'm an outsider, I'm not a politician beat to that drum. So, Susan Rice is an insider.
But not a politician.
Yeah, she's not a politician. So it's still it kind of serves to both of those audiences or both of those crowds. She's very easy to digest.
So she's gonna go with the Trump angle of, hey, I haven't been in the swamp, so to speak. I'm fresh, so I'm coming with fresh ideas and all that kind of good stuff.
And it allows Biden to reconnect with the Obama voter. So the Obama voters tend to be happy with Susan Rice. Me and Glenn actually talked before the show. I think he had said that Harris was who he thought, and I thought Susan Rice, and kind of a lot of the things that we've already been touching on, but she's also a foreign policy expert. Now, people can argue over the Benghazi thing will come back up.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and here's what the right and the left have to understand. When you're on the right, and you're a moderate right, like me or Fred, and somebody tells you Trump's a racist, we go, nah, like that's just stupid, right? We see a couple punchlines, then we go debunk them a little bit, then we go, that's dumb. Well, sure. The left does the same thing when we make a big deal out of something, even if it might not be done. Now, Benghazi, you can say, oh, American lives are lost, but at the end of the day, it didn't connect with the American people that Benghazi was a horrible thing. If you ask a person that doesn't know anything about politics, they're gonna be like, the fuck is Benghazi? Where is that? So that's not a winner argument in Republicans, even though they think, well, look at it. And it's like, yeah, but they don't know what's going on there, the average Joe voter. So I think that's not going to hurt her as much as the Republicans think she will. And I think it is going to help her. That people are going to go, oh, I remember Susan Rice. Like Susan Rice, you hear that name, even if you don't know politics, you're like, something, she was with Obama. Like she was on the TV a lot. And so
not to be confused with Condoleezza Rice, what I mean? Another black woman.
Some people might, and that wouldn't hurt her.
Yeah, some people might, but I don't think that would hurt her. Except for the fact that Condoleezza is conservative. But she's liked by both sides. She gets a lot of, she at the time got a lot of bipartisan support. But really, really fast, Susan Rice. I think the other thing too is that the Democratic Party can easily see Susan Rice doesn't have any grandiose political aspirations or anything like that. She doesn't want to be like she's not gearing up to be like the next presidential candidate or anything. So the Democratic Party doesn't have to worry about somebody that's really vetting their time as a vice president to try and become something more or try to shift. So she really would be just for the job, and I think the Democratic Party likes her for that as well.
So she has no hidden agenda.
Yeah, no hidden agenda. Yeah.
All right.
And I will say this too. She, she's had top security clearance. She stayed with the Obama campaign the entire time she was there. So Trump burned through a lot of people. That's this whole you fired, right? But with her, she was always there, always for all 8 years, and she was the highest level of security. So she already has the security clearances. There's some easy things that she doesn't have to go through. If the other people that they pick for any of us, Fred, with what you do for a living, it would be a lot harder to hire somebody outside than somebody inside that's had security clearances for a long period of time.
Yeah,
that's correct. All right, so moving on to another potential in Cali, we got Bass, right? Karen Bass.
Good old Karen.
What separates her from Kamala Harris?
Well, she's the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, so I mean, I think that's a pretty huge separation right there in and of itself. Karen Bass, it's unfortunate that her name is Karen in this day and age. Right? But Karen Bass is also a good one. You know, when I think of Karen Bass, I kind of do think of not that I think of a Susan Rice, but I mean, she's also very easy to digest. She's got the credentials, she's got the accolades, 66 years old, live and ticking. She's highly respected in government. You know, I think just all around she would be a pretty solid candidate. And again, with her being the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, it does send that message that, you know, Biden is, you know, he's for inclusivity, if you will. You know, on the surface, he's for the, the Black Lives Matter movement and all these other progressive movements and things like that. So it does kind of give him some sort of validity in terms of him being in touch with the current movement of the country. Kenny?
Yeah, and the things that I would add to that is that she actually is more along. So I can see the Susan Rice comparison with it. She doesn't have political aspirations. She actually came out and said she doesn't want to be president. I think she's the only one that came out and literally said that, which is a little concerning because Biden's 78 years old. Come November, he will be the oldest president to ever be elected. So there's a high probability, and anybody that's watched him talk for more than 10 minutes. I mean, I watched him talk just yesterday, the day before, and man, he's tough to digest.
He very well. I'll give it to
get where he was.
Blur his words, but he was like you could tell that he's been getting help because his statements were much, much shorter. They don't let him go on a little tangent because he'll get lost.
If anything goes off script, if anything goes off script, that man gets lost real quick.
Anyway, so I don't want to get too far off there, but what I wanted to say about Karen Bass is that she actually politically is more along the lines of Senator Kamala Harris. And Harris, actually, one of the things I didn't bring up that I think is good for her is she doesn't pander very deeply to the extreme left. I mean, we'll get into some of those with the Liz Warren, but she's not a Bernie bro. So she does kind of stay closer to. Now, she's been known to say the problems with Harris is things on both sides, whereas Karen Bass is a moderate. So she's a Democrat, but she's a more moderate Democrat, probably due to her amount of contact with a lot of different Black people from a lot of different backgrounds. And so I think that actually plays to her benefit. To me, Karen Bass is kind of the fastest riser in the group. And I can really see situations where Karen Bass could end up being the one just because of her status, which would solve kind of the BLM stuff, or at least give an ear. And she's not overly, she'll be able to grab some moderates, I believe.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Karen Bass, I think she's one of them. It's like a toss-up, Karen Bass or Susan Rice. I think Susan Rice, with the way that she speaks, is going to really, really bring in more of the Black vote. I think that Karen Bass is just she's really
polished when it comes to this.
She's much more polished. She actually makes more sense when I think of a Biden running mate. Karen Bass makes more sense to me than a Susan Rice. Just the experience, more polished. But I don't really see. She wouldn't be bad. She wouldn't be bad. I just don't really see anything that's.
I don't see anything. I mean,
yeah.
Susan Rice would crush
of the first three we just covered, Harris, Rice, and Bass. Anything negative that would definitely just scratch them off or hamper their potential?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I think that's why they're here.
Okay.
They all are Black. Senator Harris is going to have. I mean, it's going to come up. She's got a mixed father, and then I think it's her mother's Indian, full-blooded Indian. So she's. I don't get into this less Black thing. I don't even like the. To me, you're just a person, anyways. But I think there will be some
because the media is going to find anything they can.
No. The media, that will come up somewhere in the media. Somewhere in the media, they will hold a congressional leader of a Black caucus over top of a senator, state's attorney who's going to be looked at like a policeman. To me, I think Susan Rice is just going to be looked at as this professional that you can take. So I don't think any of them exclude themselves. Even though Senator Harris is the the front runner, I see a lot more issues with her than I see with Bass and Susan Rice.
So that's why I was asking. You know how Trump got the whole first 3 years, my man's been under the microscope. If you have dirt in your background, they're going to find it. All right. So
her track record of putting people in jail is going to be front and center.
Yeah, absolutely. Front and center. I mean, that was the first thing, even like I was talking to my dad about it like a month ago, and that was the first thing he said, well, she was a prosecutor, right? It's like oh,
sit on the other side of that prosecutor, boy.
Yeah, so she prosecuted a lot of black people.
So let's talk about our next candidate, Tammy Duckworth. Why is she such a potential for Biden?
I actually really like Tammy Duckworth. I think the negatives, we just got off of negatives, but I think the negatives in terms of Tammy Duckworth is, that she's not black, but she is Asian American. And I think the other negative is that she's really not liberal enough, if you know what I mean. She kind of is moderate as well. But I mean, she's got a lot of things going for her. I mean, she's the senator of Illinois. She's a veteran, Asian American. I think she's a different pick. She's different. It's the unexpected pick. She definitely, she's an amputee, and I think that's part of the draw, the fact that she's a veteran as well as an amputee. If anybody that knows Biden, knows he's definitely, always been pretty vocal about that. That's one thing that I can say about him for sure, outside of the lies of the civil rights and all that sort of stuff. But, she's the first senator to bring a child onto the floor. She had kids late. So I think that's something that's really relatable, especially in this current time. It's just, I think her and Biden, I think the way that the narrative can be spun is it's just this inspirational team that really knows what it's like to go through hardships and pain and adversity and come out clean on the other side. So I think it could be a good thing. In terms of, actual policy, she's not the most accomplished on the on the docket or on the ticket, if you will, but she certainly could do the job and do the job well. I think that she would be a good running mate. Kenny?
Yeah. So here's my thing on her, and I'm probably gonna get criticized for this, but I just don't think she has any chance. I think she's put on there to for a lot of good reasons. I'm not saying that she couldn't do it. I just think that it's going to be very hard to, first of all, maybe even 3 months ago, Tammy Duckworth, you might have heard her name here and there, but her name recognition is not enough. I think they're going to have a really hard time not picking a black candidate. I don't even think it's an option for me, to be honest with you. I don't. If I'm betting on her, I'm saying 2%. There would have to be a lot of stuff to go wrong. Not that she's not a good person. I think she's fairly moderate. She wasn't born in the United States, which I don't have a big problem with, but I do think it'll end up coming up if she's going to be the president, not born in the United States. That just has always seemed to be a talking point that gets.
Why is that? I don't understand that. You got, Barack Obama. He wasn't born in the United States. Everybody wanted him to relinquish his birth certificate. She was born in Thailand, in Bangkok, actually. What does it matter? She has her citizenship.
Well, why does he have to be a black guy? It just seems to matter at certain times more than others. I don't know. I don't agree with it. Yeah, I want to pick the best candidate. Period.
There you go.
Unfortunately, because we're in a political show that we know that the media does this, I know what the right's going to say. I know what the left's going to say, and they're both going to spin it. It's going to be a very, they won't talk nearly about. You'll know more about their personal history than you'll know about their policy, which is really a shame.
Sad.
So I hope people out there and look at their policy, because their policy is not bad.
So we got one of our loyal fans out here, Zach. He's got a comment for us. Let's address him real quick. Dems don't have to have a black for vice president because blacks, 94%, vote Democrat regardless.
So that's true. That's not right, though, 94. It was 92. But
he's probably spitballing on the percentages. Yeah,
I wasn't going to say anything.
I was the extra two. So maybe we're get a little bit higher. But here's the thing: the Democrats are not picking the vice president because they're black in order to get votes. I hope everybody understands that. It's so that they don't lose votes. So it's not about the percentage of them we're going to vote. They're not just going to go, oh, he picked Elizabeth Warren. Now we're going to vote for Donald Trump. It's not going to work like that. What I'm saying is that they're picking this person because they want to invigorate their base. Right now, the only invigoration that the Democrats have, and poll after poll has shown this, is that there's no fire in his campaign. The only fire is against Trump. So if you can, and he needs to have the kind of turnout that Obama had, and not the kind of turnout that Hillary had from black voters. So the percentage can be the exact same. It's the percentage of the vote. So you have to vote to even be that percentage. So you can have 96%, have 100 people come out. That's not going to win an election. So the percentage has actually nothing to do with getting them elected.
Yeah.
Moving on to our next candidate, a non-black candidate, Elizabeth Warren, but she is 1/8 Indian. So
1,000.
Yeah,
she was one of the people that got offended with the Redskins name.
Yeah. She did do her ancestry.com.
That's what they call her, because she is tastier than my grandmother with alopecia.
Honestly, that right there ruined her chances. That right there ruined her chances, dude. Because everybody, when they say Elizabeth Warren, that's the first thing that pops to the mind. She's 1/16 Indian. You know what I mean? Like,
again, you need to go get those stats because she's not 1/16. It's like 1,000.
Yeah, I
it's like it's not even enough to mention, to be honest with you.
I'm trying to be funny. I apologize.
Just for me, right?
I think I have more American Indian in me than she does.
I mean, all she really brings to the table is Bernie does, and again, we could have this discussion on another day, but I really believe that Bernie Sanders was a better candidate than Biden. And so make no mistake, if you don't believe that she carries some Bernie power and that Bernie has power, you're missing something. Because I don't care whether you like him or not, I think he's a kook or whatever. He's been very consistent for a long period of time, and he has a following that is actually a larger portion of, in my opinion, the larger portion of the riots and stuff have actually been Bernie bros. I mean, a lot of those people are heavy Bernie supporters. He has that anti-Wall Street, anti-destroy the system, socialist. Actually, BLM, the organization, not the movement, but the organization lines up. I mean, they all, I believe, supported Bernie Sanders, all of them. So they were that is their demographic. And so she would carry some of those votes. And some of those people hate the establishment Democrats and will not vote for Joe Biden, even if they hate Donald Trump.
Right. I think the Democrats had a good chance with some of their candidates, though, right? They had Tulsi Gabbard and that Andrew Yang. I liked some of their candidates early on, but then they just got pushed. Tulsi Gabbard
was never going to win. Tulsi Gabbard, to me, in the Democrat Party is what Tammy Duckworth is.
I like Andrew Yang a lot. I did.
Yeah, me too.
But Yang's Yang gang ain't hang with Bernie's gang. I mean, that's a true story. So
it is what it is, man. Elizabeth Warren could be it could be a strategic move on the part of Joe Biden. I don't think it would it would just be weird. Like, what would you? I mean, it would satisfy the extreme left and the progressives, those Bernie votes. But what about like the Obama person, the swing voter? I think it would just send mixed messages, like, hey, like, we need change. Like, here's Elizabeth Warren. We need change. Screw the system. But
socialist Marxism. I mean, there would be some. It's weird. It combines the two biggest non-right parties, but combining leftists and Democrats, it sounds good in principle, but I'm not sure that they get along very well either.
It would just be weird. I mean, you have Biden, who is a self-proclaimed moderate, and then you have Elizabeth Warren, who pretty much is on the far left. And so, again, there's positives and negatives to both. I just think it would be a weird sort of campaign or marketing ploy. But in terms of the positives, I mean, she would definitely pull in those. She would pull in those Bernie votes. I think because she is a policy expert. I mean, she knows details about everything. And the fact that she is an economics expert would really help Biden. And I think that he would have to use that, the policy expert, the economics expert, to sort of spin the narrative on why he would choose her as a running mate. Because right now, I think with the economy, I think with everything that's going on in terms of the pandemic, having an economics expert could be a really good thing. I just don't think that Elizabeth Warren, personally, for one, she's not Black. So, that's going to be a question. Why didn't you go with somebody that's Black in this climate or in this time?
So let's go with one
I
more.
will say this. I think that it actually helps her that she is a Bernie bro, because you can kind of get a little bit of a black card pass being Liz Warren, because, again, the leaders of Black Lives Matter who come out in support of her. So they can bring her into that fold a little bit different than the others. So other white people will not have the same chance that Elizabeth Warren would have. Not that she qualifies as Black or any of that stuff, but the people that are in the leadership positions of BLM probably support her still. And so it would help them in their acceptance of that. I do want to say something about one of the comments was Jake. Shout out to Jake. I know you watched a lot of our shows. We appreciate it, brother.
Yes, sir. Shout out to Jake.
But just wanted to say, one of your comments about Tulsi Gabbard had a better shot than Biden. I've heard that, but I've 100% heard that from only Republicans. And so that's because as a Democrat, we watch her and we go, yeah, all right. And since we're moderates, we go, okay. And she's a constitutionalist, which I kind of like. She's, I would say almost a libertarian-esque. And so she falls a lot. I mean, she's hot.
That doesn't hurt.
She's easy on the eyes.
And she's strong. She's a veteran. She has a lot of those things. So a lot of people, I think, would like her, but I don't think she's never going to win a Democratic a Democrat national election. She just doesn't appeal to anything farther left than a very moderate.
So let's review for everybody that showed up kind of late. Our top five, so to speak, or our five that we reviewed so far are Kamala Harris, Susan Rice, was it Karen Bass? I think it was Karen Bass.
Yep.
And then Tammy Duckworth and Elizabeth Warren. If you have one more, let's go over one more, and then we'll kind of wrap this one up. Did we got one more? What about what was her name? I was thinking of Bottoms.
I think Val Demings. If you ask me right now who a better candidate is, I would say Val Demings. But to be honest with you, they both have huge issues. Val Demings used to be a police officer. I'm off the list.
Yeah.
But she is from Florida, so Florida is a very pivotal place. If you want to win, I'll tell you right now, Biden will not win the election without Florida, period, point blank, and neither will Trump needs more than Florida, whereas Biden, I believe, just needs Florida. Even though I think Trump's going to end up.
So what about the conspiracy theories that Michelle O is going to come out of the woodwork late?
No, I mean, she would be the populist candidate, which is kind of interesting. I mean, people like Michelle Obama, she would certainly do well. I mean, but I don't know if she would want that. I mean, she'd have to walk back into this battle, and she just doesn't. I mean, she seems like a strong woman, but she doesn't seem like a fighter, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't seem like she has the same, like, to be a political, you got to have that. Senator Harris has that kind of dog, where you can kind of get at him.
Well, I think she has it, but I think right now, because look, the Obamas are comfortable right now. I mean, they have a net worth of over $50 million. They're not, like
all from book deals.
Well, and I tell you, when Obama was in office, I mean, I think Michelle Obama probably gave more speeches than really outside of maybe Nancy Reagan for a first lady. She gave a lot of speeches. So I think she has it, but I think that she's so comfortable right now in their success and in all that they've accomplished that she would really have to dig deep to kind of bring out that political vigor that we all know is there. But when you're, I mean, they're relaxing and
clear that that's really what I'm saying. It's not that I don't think she has an inner, because I've seen it in times for certain purposes, and she's a very valued person. She believes in something. She wants to argue for it. Whether I agree with that or not, I can respect that she does that. I just think where they're at right now, I completely agree with Glenn. It just seems like, why would she go? She'd have to dig to a place, and why dig to that place when things are pretty good for you?
So
she has to be all in the White House again.
Who are we going to see on the ticket with Biden? What do you guys think?
So we're not saying what I think is the favorite. We're saying who do I just my gut tells me.
I don't want the favorite. I want your opinion. Who do you think is going to be on the ballot?
Yeah, I can't get off. I'm gonna have to go Susan Rice. I tell you, give it. I mean, he says he's gonna pick tomorrow, which is great that we have the show, because maybe on Friday we can discuss it. Something about me tells me Karen Bass, and I just can't put myself to, with very little political acumen that way. I just can't. I have to go with Susan Rice.
Yeah, I think Kamala Harris has the name. She's got more of a recognizable name, I think, than anybody on the docket. I mean, there's several other ones that we didn't talk about. I mean, Stacey Abrams is another one. She's got a huge name as well too. People really like her. Yeah, Keisha Lance Bottoms. They all kind of have their thing. I think Stacey Abrams, out of the ones we just briefly mentioned, is probably the cleanest I think she's really solid.
So who's your favorite, Glenn? Who are you going to put on the ballot?
My favorite, I think I'm going to have to go with Karen Bass, just because with her being the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, and also her experience, I just think that there's way more positives. There actually aren't really any negatives to picking Karen Bass. I think going with someone like a Kamala Harris, you got the prosecution thing coming up. There's just way too many talking points for people to bring against you, or for Trump to hammer at in a debate if it were to come to that. Karen Bass is pretty solid. Not only that, but Karen Bass is a really good speaker too. And I think Karen Bass would do a great job helping.
We got Jacob in the audience here. It's been leaked. It's going to be Harris.
Uh-oh.
I didn't hear that. But Jacob, you're on the record now. We got you on the show. Your pick is Harris.
I'm going to tell you this about Bass, and this is just one real quick thing, is that the only thing, and he said she didn't have anything, the one thing is that if Biden dies 1 year in, she's got no political experience. Now she's the president of the United States for 1 year. So
sounds like Trump.
Sounds a little like Trump.
Sounds like Trump.
So if you don't like Trump, you might not want another first timer. So just something to think about.
Well, then if she has a decent mind on her head where she can speak some inclusive rhetoric, that might make all the difference in the world.
Again, chiming in.
One thing that Trump has that Bass doesn't have: $40 billion. I don't remember what he said.
Just a little heads up. R.I.P. Herman Cain and Lewis. We didn't even bring up Lewis the other night, so God bless them. Hopefully they, all right. Just wanted to give a little
record. Herman Cain, I voted for him in the primary. I was a big Herman Cain fan. Hit 999. If it didn't sound so Hitler-esque, a white guy could have never got away with the tax plan. It was 999. But I really liked Herman Cain. I liked watching him in the debates, and I hope we can maybe one day get to a tax code that he had some issues with it, but I like some of the basic ideas.
So let's get into a real toxic topic, so to speak: returning to school. So a lot has been going on. Heated arguments, debates, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people are saying yes for social and the health of the kids, and a lot of people are saying no for the exact same topic. So which is it? Do we want to send them? I think I saw Italy, Germany, Great Britain, Spain, France. They're all going back to school.
I believe at this point they said that they have no confirmed cases where a child's giving it to a teacher at this point. Now that's going to happen. A lot of this was over this summer. Now I don't know how Italy and Germany does their school system. I should have Googled that. So I don't know if they have summers like the same way that we do. but I like the idea of having both options open. I will tell you, I had somebody tell me the other day on the phone, they said, so you're just okay with a couple people dying if kids go back to school? And I say, well, you're okay with a couple people hanging themselves if they don't. I mean, there's no, they said that the suicide crisis hotline's up 600% over the last 6 months. That's unreal. I mean, loneliness, separation anxiety, those types of things, being by yourself is not a good thing. If you're an introvert, I get it, but you need to force yourself to be around people on a more regular basis, because all health professionals, and this is interesting too, for people that don't know, fear is one of the things that crushes your immune system. Go do any research on it. Fear is not good for your immune system. So very, very important that if you can keep your kid in school, keep them in school. If they don't feel comfortable and you have the means, you got a 2-parent family and husband makes good money or wife makes good money, the other one stays home. See how I did that there? I don't care. I'll be a stay-at-home dad. Okay. So if you got your kids and you want to teach them, man, teach them. And schools should allow that. It looks like there's a lot of school systems that are going to allow that. So I'm glad
Jacob's on your side, Kenny. Jacob's on your side. He said, single dad here, no CS. What do I do?
Yeah, that's rough, man. That's rough. Single dads, I'm blessed to have my wife, brother. I'm blessed to have my wife. But yeah, man, just going back to school is a crazy topic, very controversial. And it just depends on where people are at, like we've talked about on previous episodes.
Dude, I've seen arguments on the social media outlets get crazy, into each other. Man.
Yeah. And everybody wants to judge. That's the thing. You can't don't go judging a mother or a father because they decided to send their kids to school or to not send their kids to school. You don't know what's going on in that household. So all my kids just got accepted into private school this year, and so we had the option to do not the first 9 weeks virtual or send them. Except for my 7-year-old daughter. So she's going to be going to school, but the rest of my kids are going to be virtual. We're not going to send them just because my wife is pregnant. And otherwise, I would send them. I think it's good. The kids need to get out. They need to. I mean, my son wrestles. They've already started back up with sports and wrestling. I mean, wrestling full contact. I mean, they're sweating and rubbing up against each other and all this stuff. That didn't sound right, but.
You're coughing in here. COVID, you just coughed in your hand.
So we got Dave. Dave coming in.
My water went down the wrong.
Fred, I just want to point this out. I know this
yes,
is
sir.
episode, but I don't live in Alabama, but we kind of look like the Hodge twins. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So Dave's saying, hey, look, man, sucks for people with children in elementary school having kids not go and then having to go to work. Middle schoolers can be left alone. I don't know. So, I mean, parents, we got to go to work. We got to pay the bills. And I tell you what, when I was a kid, latchkey kid back then, I'd come home. Do you think I went and did my homework right away? Hell no. I had my friends coming over.
So that's one of the things that baffles me is that they've made this political. Right. So the Democrat side is, and there's some exceptions, but this is the political narrative, is that if you're a Democrat, you believe your kids should stay at home and they should not have school and we'll just wait. And then the Republican side is all the kids should school, nobody should stay at home. And then the Libertarian says, hey, do what you want, and as long as you don't mind no rules, right?
You should have the choice. That's what the Libertarian says.
So, and I think what's funny is I think most people are on the Libertarian side of it. But the judgmentalness comes from the edges. And one of the things that baffles me is that more young Black kids in urban communities, now young poor white kids too, but they don't get talked about much, but poor kids in general, okay, and are the ones that are going to suffer from this the most. Man, I mean, if you got a mom that's working a 5-hour shift because that's all she's got, and I mean, you think these kids are going to come home and do what? They're not going to, I mean, I came home to an empty home. You think I stayed home and did my homework? No, I didn't. I ran with the boys.
Right. I think the biggest thing about online learning is that if there's no accountability of checking in with the teacher or being online with the teacher for said amount of time, they won't get online until Friday when the assignments are due.
Well, that's for my son Noah. And for my 10-year-old daughter, they have the it's like a virtual like in school system where they'll actually be able to see the teacher can see them. So there is more accountability there. I mean, look, and it is kind of crazy. And I'm thinking like my wife, she's at home all day, every day. She works from home. If I want to stay home, I can do that. And that's kind of what we did for the fourth quarter of last year's school year, or the school year that just passed rather. But for people that have to go to work, and I think that's really why Trump is really pushing for kids to get back to school, because parents really can't go back to work until kids go back to school. But again, then the argument is, of course, well, are you thinking of the economy or are you thinking of lives, right? So at the end of the day, there's no right or wrong answer here. I think it's just like I have a pregnant wife, so I'm not sending mine, but I have to send my 7-year-old, right? But if I didn't have to send her, I wouldn't send her either. So I think it's just a family thing. But they politicize this thing. It's unfortunate, and there's really no right or wrong. Everybody's looking to point the finger at somebody.
So we have Zach. I think he's not alone here. I think a lot of people are in Zach's or shoes, so to speak. He said, "Hey, look, I'm a single dad. I'd like for my older teen to stay home, but I don't think she's learning very well. I work and can't be home to monitor it. I feel like getting on the bus in the morning was a big driver. She thinks she can lay in bed on the laptop all day otherwise, right?"
So, and I've seen that firsthand. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. First of all, the grades were all a joke, right? The last half of the second semester last year.
Yeah.
And I remember my son coming in, and I was looking at his, he had nothing done, and we had to sit there, and I had to go, like, we literally put in 8-hour days to try to get them catch up because they were just doing pass or fail. Now, I'll tell you this as well. And this, we always talk about races when it comes to correlation and causation, but whenever we talk about gender stuff, if there's anything controversial, people are like, "Oh, you're a sexist" or something like that. But I do think it's interesting to note. Now, I know in Dave's situation or in Zach's situation, he's talking about his daughter, but guys, percentage-wise, okay, they have more autism and they have more ADD, ADHD type stuff. And so this goes for all kids, but that demographic, we have to be able to understand that there may be, I can have a daughter. My daughter Macy, she can stay at home. She work from her computer. She'll be fine. No problem. Like, she's gonna sit there. But people like me, my ADD, when I was a kid, there was no way, man. No way am I learning on a computer. I mean, I learned later. I went to college on the computer, and even then, I mean, I got my master's degree on an online college, but I actually went into a building with other students, and we actually had in-class stuff. So, I just could only do so much on a computer. All of a sudden, my mind is just all over the place. So very, very difficult. And I think it's gonna hurt a lot of young men, even proportionally more than young women. I haven't heard anybody bring that up, and I'm not saying it like it means that anybody's more important than anybody else. But if you know that, then maybe there's some other things we can do there that we're not doing, and it doesn't seem like we're doing anything that way.
So Zach, I think, is backing our opinion here. He says, "Hey, look, the online learning is pretty lax, and the teachers aren't very rigorous. It's basically, hey, do you log in and attempt to do some work? Because if you do that, A."
Well, that's what it was at the end of last year for sure. So that's what they're saying that it's not going to be. And, we'll see. Nobody really knows. But I am, and the kids are pretty excited about it. They're going to be going back to school virtually. They're going to be able to see their teachers, through the computer screen, through their cameras and stuff like that. It'll be a first time that we've ever done something like that. I think it's going to be the first time that most schools have attempted something like that. So there's, I think the main thing is everybody has to remain positive and keep an open mind. There's going to be, there's going to be hiccups. There's going to be, instances where, something malfunctions or, you just got to stay positive throughout the whole thing. It's a learning process for everybody, for the students, for the teachers, for the parents, for everybody. So, there's been talks about, again, Trump pushing to go back to school. There's been talks about Bill Gates, backing him on that, but also Bill Gates has a vested interest, in terms of a vaccine and the money there. So what do you guys think about that?
It's funny that Glenn brings that up, because initially my thought is that why would Bill Gates back this? Because Bill Gates wants everybody to stay in and get COVID, because it benefits him. Now, just because somebody benefits off something doesn't necessarily mean, and then people always want to connect that, right? Like, oh, I remember one time they said Trump he's a billionaire and a minimum 100 millionaire multiple times over, right? He's financially sound that way. So the fact that he had $1,500 in a stock in hydroxychloroquine, they were like, well, he had money in like
that's why. Yeah.
But Bill Gates and Fauci have millions, hundreds of millions of dollars invested in vaccines. And so when you hear them say vaccine, and this is going to go to a discussion we're going to have in a later episode one day when it comes to Congress and the way that they're allowed to basically get underneath information and then dump stocks and not end up in jail. It's bullshit, man. It is complete bullshit. There's no way Fauci, he shouldn't be able to put $1 in anything. Not in when you're not anything that's in regards to the medical industry. Nothing. And so
then we would get his real diagnosis and honest opinion.
And when was the last time he came out and said, we have vaccines for the flu for the last 10 years, and our flu number has never drastically dropped. So, it's different when you had, what was that back in the day? Polio. They got a polio vaccine, and guess what? You don't know anybody with fucking polio, right? But somehow we have a flu vaccine, and we have a discussion every year. You've met these people. They ask me, did I take the flu thing shot? Nope. You know why? Because last time I didn't get sick. Well, that's not how it works. Well, I did, so I don't take it anymore. You know when the last time I got the flu was? Never. So never since then. So, and I'm not saying that it was causation and correlation. I get all that. It got me sick last time, so I'm not doing it again. And then people are like, but we have all these people vaccinated, 80% of people vaccinated for that thing, and we still have just as many as we had. So I'm not anti-vax. I'm not that. So don't misread that. But golly Moses,
I'm the same way. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I don't let my kids do the flu shot. Again, same thing. One time I took it, I got sick off of that shit. So we just don't take it. And not only that, but there's like 126 strands of the flu, something ridiculous. So when they give you the flu shot, they're guessing. They're like, oh, well, this one could, potentially.
You might not even get that strand that year. Yep.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And the same thing is going to happen with the coronavirus because it mutates and things like that. So there's going to be several strands of it.
But if it's going to hit with a vaccine that's successful, please let it be Novavax. Might have $2 in there. Let's get that thing up, okay, everybody?
All right, so last comment. I got anonymous text from one of our fans that wants to remain anonymous. So let me just read this off real quick. The problem is if parents send their kids to school with the sniffles or a runny nose, looking the other way, that's how it all spreads. It's the flu or COVID or any illness. If parents could be honest and just take that one day off, it would be easier than just sending their kids to school. Don't get me wrong. I want my kids to go to school. I just see a lot of parents that look the other way when their kids get slightly sick because they got to go to work and earn that paycheck. I get that they got to go to work. I work too, but isn't it better to take the one day off than having multiple days off because the kid gets sick and then they get the other kid sick, they get the teacher sick, and then everything just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what I said the episode, I believe it was episode 12 or 13 when we had the doctor on, Dr. Chris, was that, what's going to happen? A parent sends their kid to school with the sniffles, turns out to be coronavirus. Now the whole class has to quarantine for 2 weeks. The teacher, what is the teacher going to do? Do they have to quarantine too? Are they going to have to use their sick pay to do it? There's got to be some sort of protocol in place for this stuff when it happens, because it's going to happen. Not only that, but I know there's a lot of countries that have flat out said they're sending their kids back to school. If you look at Argentina, they sent their kids back to school, and they've had a spike in coronavirus cases amongst the school children. I think it was like 7 times or something like that, something weird that I've read. Now that was just in Argentina. I think that could potentially be telling. I'm not sure. I personally think that the kids need to be in school. I think that there needs to be social interaction. I think that is more important than what we actually realized before the pandemic. Things like recess, Lunch, they're very important, believe it or not. They're actually really important to the school day. So, I think that the students need to go back to school. I just think that families need to, operate with caution and, evaluate their personal situations before sending their kids back.
And to me, an anonymous viewer, hold on, I want to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of times we're judging others on their intentions and ourselves on our actions. Ourselves on our intentions and others on their actions. So we see and we know our intention. So when we keep our kid home, we go, we're doing it because it's the right thing. Or we send them, we go, we're doing it because we know it's the right thing to do. And then when somebody else does the same thing, we go, oh, well, they probably had to just go to work and they didn't even care about blah, blah. So I would just caution people to try not to do that. I know it's difficult to not do that, but you have to be very careful about doing that because we don't know if that kid, they have laws where if let's say your kid's been sick for 5 days. My nephew, who I love very much, he gets sick a lot. He gets bronchitis a lot, gets the flu a lot. It's funny because his mom's very sanitized. She sanitizes everything. And so he has these lung issues sometimes. And so it gets to a point where his dad will just be like, man, just stay home. But then they're like, oh, if you stay home one more day, we're going to have the police at your house. We're going to be telling you you're a shitty parent. So look, it's tough. There's nothing, to me, that's almost like curing racism. You're just going to tell people if your kid's sick, don't bring them to school. Of course. And don't hate people because of the color of their skin. Right. People are either just going to do it or they're not going to do it. And there's nothing that we can say. So you can take it upon yourself and you'd almost be better. And I'm not trying not to. I'm just saying you'd be better off saying, you know what, I'm going to make sure I do it that way. And then I'm going to try to make sure I do it that way. Glenn's going to try to make sure. But us telling everybody, that's a common sense. Like people have been doing that for years and it was stupid, right? Hey, go to school. Okay. So, to me, I keep my kids home. They tell me I'm not feeling well. I'm not really that pressed for them to go to school every day. But now that they haven't been in so long, I'm more pressed to get them there because I'm tired of hearing my daughters fight with each other, man. I'm tired of them. I got to get the hell away from these little sons of bitches.
So let's kind of wrap this one up with some lighter topics here. The return of sports. Basketball just started last night. We've had baseball return. NHL's coming back this weekend.
Hey, here's my quick shout. Ready? The Orioles in typical fashion, boy. First inning, down 5-0. Bring it back. 6-5. Top of the night.
The Orioles always start. That's why I like it. That's why I like this condensed schedule because the Orioles could get out to be like 30-15 right away.
Right.
No, we won't.
Before they blow it.
It won't happen.
We won't. I thought each inning is a win. If we just win an inning, I'm feeling good.
Hey, look, basketball came back last night. The Lakers and Clippers game was pretty hot. It was a really good game.
You see, they sung the national anthem and the WNBA walked off the floor.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because
I
set the attendance record of 14.
So if a tree falls in the woods, does it really make a noise? Without the news, I would have never known they walked off. You know what
Me neither. Yeah, me neither.
What were the teams called, Fred?
I have no clue.
Don't worry, I'll wait.
No clue. Yeah.
Let me look it up real quick. Let me look it up real quick.
Who was the MVP?
Yeah. Who won the championship last year? And what's funny is I love girls basketball, and I still can't watch it.
Right. A lot of people are turning the channel because it's.
People aren't watching that. Let's see what happens in the NBA. I watch a little bit of
the NBA, the MLB, the NHL. I think a lot of
people, the defensive tackle, and this is funny to me, 6'5", 320 or something. The dude, Tuet from Pittsburgh, defensive lineman. He said, "I'm not kneeling for shit, and I don't care what nobody got to say about it. You got something to say? I'm right here."
Yep.
Everybody's like, "That's how you feel, brother."
Yeah, he's allowed to feel that way, right?
I'm gonna talk shit to Drew Brees.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't walk it back. And again, not because, hey, look, if you want to kneel because that's what you believe is going to empower the people that you feel are disenfranchised, hey, man, do you?
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
I didn't like it from a business standpoint. I think it was a good decision for business. Now it may be a better thing for business. Do you? But don't go tell somebody else if they don't do it the way that you do it. That's the same shit white racist people did 50 years ago. You're just doing the same thing. So, hey, do what you think is right. And, you know, that if that's your social justice stance, for him, he said he wants to do it. His family came here, poor immigrants, made it work. That's what he believes in his heart. If Drew Brees believes his grandfather, I mean, do you? Stop
If it's okay to kneel during the national anthem, it should be okay for players to stand. It's their option, right?
Hockey might be the only respectable sport. I'm sorry. I tried.
Yeah,
I tried.
The reason why Jacob brought that up, I think the reason why Jacob brought that up is because the first NHL game since March was televised, and they all locked in each other's arms and stood up during the national anthem as a sign of unity instead of having this some stand, some sit, some walk out.
Look, I try to watch hockey as hard as I tried not to watch the NFL, and I failed miserably at both of those things. So I don't know.
I like hockey. I like the Capitals. But I don't watch them all the
thing too. At the end of the day, hey, here's the other thing too. At the end of the day, it's sports, right? People think.
And when nothing's on, I watch whatever. I watch guys throw sandbags. I watched cornhole the other day. So
that's what I'm saying. People think sports aren't really a job. But in the workplace environment, if you bring your politics to work, you're getting swished.
Well, it's your boss. Your boss can make the decision. So the owners make a decision. The commissioner makes a decision.
Right.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, these players and also too, when you're making that kind of money, I mean, these players have made so much money. They understand the potential ramifications of going political or using their platform to speak on an issue. They understand that they could be fired. They understand that they could be sat down, taken off the roster, all that stuff. They don't give a fuck because
they already got
rich. They're rich. They're rich. Right. Somebody else to fumble and bumble the ball up and down the court. Like, when you're that good and you're rich, you're rare.
Which is why
you guys are on full tonight.
And you do have to have the skill set. Michael Sam didn't have the skill set. You got to let go. I mean, if you have the skill set, if you found out tomorrow Tom Brady was dating guys, nobody's going to give a shit.
A la Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. I mean, when the rules are not the same for everybody. And like we've talked about before, it goes elite down. Now, that could be elite amount of money. It could be elite color of skin. It could be elite talent at something. Everybody is not treated equally, and nor from the business side will people ever. And really, equality doesn't even exist ever. So, I mean, you can line up all the white Mormons in Utah, and you still will have ones that have different situations than the others. So.
Yeah, because let me tell you, LeBron James can go as political as he wants.
Yep.
He can go on any platform. He can speak, say what he wants, do what he wants. He's not getting fired. He's
only for another 2 or 3 years, Glenn, because he's done after that.
Yeah, right.
Giannis can take the opposite side. He ain't going nowhere either.
Right.
So.
Right. So hey, let's wrap this one up, boys. You two together, I don't know how you're going to do it, but share the screen, do what you got to do. Let's end this on a good note. What do you got for us?
All right. I'll go first since I'm the guest in this house. First of all, thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget, share, subscribe, like the post. Hey, we appreciate all the support. Just continue to share because the more people around, we're going to have a lot more points to put in and have discussions. But we'll remember the people that were here with us from day one. So thank you. Thank you to Glenn for having me over his house. I'm taking my sons to a football camp in Alabama. And so just looking forward. It was nice to be able to see him. Hadn't seen him in some years.
It's been a while.
And so it's been nice. And I was glad to be able to have a show tonight.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here, Kenny. Thank you all for being with us again. Another week in the books. Happy Friday to everybody. Again, thanks for tuning in. There was a lot that we sort of talked about tonight in talking about Joe Biden's running mates. Because really, there's a lot of symbolism in who he decides to pick. Each running mate actually kind of sends a different message. whether you're going to pick the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, or you're going to go with someone like a Kamala Harris who has a prosecutory record of criminals, but especially blacks, since that's the climate that we're in. I'm just going to throw it out there and be honest, call a spade a spade. But she's locked up everybody. And then she really has. And then you have people like Tammy Duckworth as well that have, are kind of unknown, that, are a little bit different, not the black woman, but still the Asian woman. So still, it says that you're seeking inclusivity, if you will, or, that's that whole sort of thing. So there's a lot of different things that each candidate says, and there's a lot of ways that he can go with that. So time will tell. He did announce that he plans on announcing his candidate on August 1st or by August 1st. That was a self-imposed deadline, so we will see. But yeah, again, that's pretty much all we have for you guys tonight. Thank you all for being with us. Looking forward to coming back on Monday and getting into the next hot topics. But until then, you guys have a great weekend. Fred?
Hey, yeah. Like our boy said, hey, man, episode 25. Thank you for all the loyal ones that keep coming back and back again, listen to us knuckleheads talk topics, and at the end of the day, yeah, sometimes it gets heated. Sometimes we don't agree. But you know what? Look at Kenny and Glenn sitting in the same house, getting ready to have some dinner together and still friends, right? Right. And that's what it's all about. We can all disagree, but keep it civil, right? We're all still humans. That's what makes us beautiful, right? We're not supposed to have the same ideas. That's how we get things done these days, right?
So we ain't having no dinner. I hate this racist ass.
And I had Cracker Barrels. I want to be around all the races.
That's right.
Cracker Barrel before you came.
Yeah, nothing but love and respect out there. Stay safe. And you guys you're not 6 feet apart. You need to be wearing a mask, damn it.
Yeah, right?
Anyway, good night, America. We'll see you on Monday. Have a safe weekend. We love you. God bless.